Fishing Intelligence, a fishing improvement podcast for the modern angler. Welcome back to another week of the Fishing Intelligence podcast. This is now week 10. 10 episodes in, and we're going to be bringing it back to Angler. I'm going to be talking with Derek Horner this week. He's our marketing coordinator here at Angler, and we're going to be talking about collegiate bass fishing as well as professional bass fishing and working in the fishing industry. Derek, thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jake. Super excited to be here.
So you're part of the Angler team. We met, was it the first time in the Bassmaster Classic booth with Angler? Was that when we first got to know each other?
Yeah, I think it was the first day of the Bassmaster Classic last year, and then I think that was the same day that Alex gathered around the Penn State boys when we took that epic Penn State versus Ohio State picture.
Yeah, the Penn State versus OSU picture. I was so mad that Alex brought his jersey because I didn't know we were allowed to be wearing them. We had just switched up sponsors, so I was trying to be, sponsor polite and not make anyone mad, but Alex got the cool picture in that instance. A little bit upset.
Well, and let's be real here. The beard kind of outweighs the hair.
Back then it did, but now I have more hair, so who's winning the battle?
I guess we can say you're winning this time.
You're with the Penn State team. Were you captain for all 4 years that you were with them, or how many years were you with that team?
So I became the team captain my freshman year when I joined the club. The club kind of went through a little transformation right as I got into it, where we created what we called our tournament team. And the tournament team needed a captain, and I just basically said, that's something that I think I would love to do. You work with basically all the teams and just try to arrange different teams for different tournaments and work with personalities to see if they line up well as a team. And so I did it for 4 years, and it was an absolute blast, and I loved it.
At Ohio State, we did kind of the style where there was a tryout for people who didn't have boats. The boaters would take out the non-boaters, as many could fit in their boat. They would fish, and then it was kind of a combination of who fished the best / which personalities worked best together. So when you guys were determining teams, was it more personality-based, like trying to get two people in the boat who worked well together, or was it you want your hammers together and give you guys like the best chance of doing really well in tournaments?
That's a really good question. So we actually never really had tryouts. We just never really had the amount of people we needed to be able to hold a tryout, to be rather frank about it. The Penn State program has grown a ton, since right before I joined through the last 4 years. But I still don't think we're running tryouts for next year. The way that we really looked at it was more personality and style of fishing. So the way that I always tried to tell people to try to pick a partner is, if you're a power fisherman, try to find a finesse guy. If you're a finesse guy, try to find a power guy, because then you're covering the same stretch of water with two different approaches, and it just really helps you dial in on that bite just that much quicker.
Yeah, that's how my partner Mason and I actually kind of worked. He was more the power fisherman. I'm the finesse guy. I'm always throwing, skipping a wacky rig up under docks or throwing the drop shot, and he's always got big jigs, something where he can jack the fish. And it's good to get those complementing styles in the same boat, because that way, like you said, you can cover water more effectively, because some people are just more comfortable with certain styles of fishing.
Definitely, yeah.
So when you came into Penn State, were you planning on fishing competitively? Like, had you fished tournaments before then?
Yeah, so I joined a local club here just outside of State College called Tyrone Bassmasters, and I was probably 15 or 16, and did a bunch of club tournaments with them through the TBF. I had some, pretty decent success with those guys. They taught me a ton. My first 2 years I fished as a co-angler, and then the last year I was in the club before I left the club because of the college tournaments taking up too much of my time. I fished as a boater. And I had a blast fishing with those guys. So I kind of had that competitive aspect with, fishing tournaments prior to getting to college. So, yeah, actually, whenever I first got accepted into Penn State, the first thing I did was message the Facebook page and said, like, hey, guys, I'm really interested in joining your team. Give me all the information I need. I'm in. So I was super excited to get to college and start fishing competitively right off the bat. Um, yeah, and I just, meeting everyone in the club my first year, getting to know the different personalities and all the different backgrounds of where people grew up and fished, and being able to have like we do a lot of like seminars and stuff in our club meetings, just to help teach different techniques and styles, and you get to learn. Um, we had a lot of guys down from Philly who fished the Bay and the Potomac, so you get to learn about tidal fisheries, which for me, whenever I first joined the club, was a whole different world. I fished lakes and rivers my entire life, so learning about tidal fisheries was really cool to me. But um, yeah, that's kind of I definitely came in with that competition mentality.
So that's funny because I came in completely opposite. I didn't fish for most of my life. I picked up a fishing rod, I think junior year of high school is when I actually started fishing a lot because the area that I'm from, it's just not a lot of fishermen. There's no high school teams or um, support groups for fishing. So I came into the game super late. When I got to Ohio State, I was looking at some different clubs and I saw bass fishing and I'm like, well, I like fishing a lot, so I might as well give this a try. I'd never fished out of a bass boat. Um, Came to the tryout, ended up doing decently well, and that's kind of how the journey started. I think our squad at that point was probably about 6 boaters. How big was your guys' when you came in as a freshman?
So when I came in, I think there was 3 or 4 boats. I want to say 3. And actually, my fall semester, I did not have a boat yet. Um, I used a different, I used someone else's boat. I borrowed it for the last year of the Tyrone Club. So then, as a freshman, they really didn't know too much about me. I said I wanted to be the team captain. I was voted into that, but I still didn't have a boat. And we were running the club kind of as a seniority thing right when I joined. So it was looking like I really wasn't going to be able to compete. So what I did was, I right, wrong, or indifferent, I decided to buy myself a boat as a freshman in college and dig myself a little financial hole. But it was probably the best decision I've ever made because I was able to fish all 4 years of college as a boater. When you get your boat, you learn a lot about maintenance and how to fix little things here and there that without a boat you just kind of you hear about, but you don't know how to go about fixing them. So it was a huge learning curve my entire time through college, especially since I bought an older boat. It was a 1992 Ranger. um, I love that thing, but man, has it given me a lot of issues that, just small stuff that I can fix on my own, but YouTube has been a huge help in fixing my boat.
That's something that's on the list for me. One day I'm gonna get my boat. It just hasn't quite happened yet. Your boat's beautiful though. I mean, like it does its job. It runs well, catches fish. You got some sticks that have fished out of that boat, especially those angler guys. I heard they're pretty decent.
Yeah, the angler crews, they're pretty solid and know what they're doing. The coolest person I've ever had fish out of it was actually Dave Lefebvre. When we were up in New York last month, Dave Lefebvre was running the front of my boat, and he's like, "Man, this is what I used to use back in the day whenever these things were brand new." That was really cool to have a professional angler running my boat.
That's very cool. So, do you ever see yourself trying to get into professional style tournaments, or are you just going to be kind of like a weekend tournament guy from here out? What do you think?
Well, I fished the BFLs this year, last summer as a co-angler just to try to, learn some things from some guys who've been doing it a little longer than I had. Um, I really enjoyed it. My goal with all this, from the time I really kind of really looked at getting competitive in this is, I really do want to fish professionally. I think that, a lot of people overlook how much goes into doing that. It's not just going fishing, there's a ton of work that goes into that. But, yeah, I think that my end goal here, since I've really gotten into competitive fishing, has always been to try to fish those more competitive tournaments. And, right now, obviously, with just graduating college, I don't really have the money to be entering into those entry fee tournaments like that. But, down the road, I definitely think I'm going to get into it. Probably start out with the Costa Series or something along those lines, just to really test myself and test my abilities and see where I line up with everyone else who's fishing those things. And, just see what learning I need to do because as fishermen, there's always something we can learn. So.
Yeah, and no better way to do that than to fish with somebody else in their boat, because if they have a nice rig, then they probably have a pretty decent idea knowing what they're doing.
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah, I think a lot of guys who have those real nice rigs don't just go out and spend that amount of money just on a whim. They have the same goal that a lot of us that fish those tournaments do, which is to just keep trying to make it to that next level.
So we both fished the National Championship FLW College Series at the Red River. That was over this summer. So what are some of your other high up finishes in different tournaments?
Okay. Man, that takes so I can go back a ways there. So actually, my second tournament I ever fished with that Tyrone club, that was my first win ever, which was mind-boggling to me that the second tournament I ever fished in my life I won.
That's
Um,
awesome.
since that point, though, anyone who's ever won a tournament will find this statement entirely relatable. Once you win, all you want to do again is win. I just keep chasing that feeling, knowing that you were the best on the water that day. That feeling is, it's what drives me. Since that point, I've had a ton of, really blessed days on the water. In 2016, the FLW College Series had a Northeast Regional event on Chautauqua. My partner and I ended up winning that my sophomore year of college. The next year, the Pennsylvania Bass Federation had their state championships on Chautauqua. I ended up winning that event. It was a 2-day event. I think my 2-day total was 32 pounds and change. Um, from there, I this last summer, I won a Pennsylvania Bass Nation event up at Chautauqua. So as you can see, there's kind of a trend there. All my big finishes really kind of come from Chautauqua. I've won a few times on my local lake here at Sayers and had some high up finishes at Raystown, and some different places, in Pennsylvania that I've done well in. But Chautauqua Lake and then Cayuga Lake up in New York, those New York lakes really seem to treat me well.
So what do you think it is about Chautauqua in particular where you can consistently do well? Because I mean, I've fished with you on Chautauqua, and you're a stick there. You just whoop people. So what is it about that lake that makes it so perfect for your style of fishing?
So I think the biggest thing with Chautauqua is just it really does. I mean, as you said, it really fits my style of fishing. I really like power fishing, and those docks, you can really break them down. That's where I catch most of my fish. I'm not a big grassline guy. I'm not a big shoal guy. Um, I really just have 5 or 6 stretches of 10 to 15 docks that I hit, kind of in a cycle throughout the day. My biggest thing is just breaking down the docks similar to how you would break down offshore structure, is just picking apart each pole, trying to figure out where the fish are staged for that specific day. Um, yeah, I can skip a half ounce jig back under there a lot farther than most people simply because I've practiced over and over and over and over and over again. But it fits my style of fishing because those fish are aggressive, man. There's a lot of times you'll cast up under there, and the second your bait hits the water, it's taken off. Um, and then I like heavy line. I like jacking the crap out of the fish, which you have to get them out from under those docks. Um, but yeah, I think that it just really lines up to my style simply because I really have that breakdown each spot I'm fishing mentality, and with docks, that's key, especially when you can start to dial in throughout a day where they're staging on the docks, whether they're on the front side, whether they're way up the walkways, or if they're staging off the poles or right next to the poles. Once you start to really dial that in, it just makes it that much more efficient, and you really get each cast exactly where you want it, and you just break down the water that much faster.
And it's so interesting because so many people do the dock fishing deal on Chautauqua. So there's obviously little tricks and secrets to just getting those bigger bites. Because whenever I fish Chautauqua, I'll always bring in 5 fish, but it's like 5 fish for 4 pounds or 5 fish for 6 pounds. It's just like the saddest bag of fish. But then somehow people are fishing the same docks or slightly different docks with different techniques, and they're pulling out good sized fish. And I mean, it's just like you really have to know the lake to
Yeah,
find that right bite.
So what's really cool about Chautauqua is, I've done a lot of article pieces on this before with a few different publications. I break it down as there's four different types of docks on that lake. There is shallow docks with no grass, shallow docks with grass, deep docks with no grass, and deep docks with grass. Um, so when I pre-fish, I have areas that I know on that lake that have, each one of those four types. And when I find those bigger fish on a certain type, I can replicate that throughout the lake, and that really kind of helps me come up with my tournament day game plan.
Very cool. So going back to the college fishing side of things, how do you think Penn State did job wise of supporting you guys? Do you think they were very supportive for the team, not supportive, or do you think you guys were like doing everything on your own? What was your vibe there?
So, Penn State is not one of those schools like Bethel or an Adrian College that gets scholarships for these guys to go fishing. We did a lot of self-funding, a lot of fundraising. We've had a lot of help from the community, and then our sponsors really help us out too. Um, but I'd say, a lot of it really is, taking our time, taking a weekend out of the summer, not going fishing and going and working an event, be it an outdoor show or being at a kids casting event. The Pennsylvania Bass Federation, I have to give those guys a huge shout out. They invite us to a ton of events that they do for kids casting. And, that helps us not only raise money and awareness about our club, but it helps us with our club goal. And our club goal is to expand the sport of bass fishing in the state of Pennsylvania. And what that allows us to do is, show up to all these different events and wear our jerseys and show people, we're here to help kids learn how to fish because they're the next generation of kids, of people who are going to be coming up, and, you never know who the next stick's going to be. But I think that when it comes down to it, club sports helped us out a little bit. They always gave us a few grand of funding here and there, but a lot of it really kind of came down to us doing our own fundraising and working these events and, raising enough money to be able to pay for gas and hotel costs. Sometimes we had to front some of that. Other times we had more money. It kind of depended on when the tournaments lined up with our fundraising efforts.
Yeah, and if you love the sport enough, you're gonna find a way to make it work,
100%.
which is probably the main thing is you have to do what you have to do to do what you love. And so now, coming out of college, you're still in the fishing industry. Explain kind of what you do with Angler now.
Um, yeah, the fishing industry is something that I always wanted to be a part of ever since I kind of got into competitive fishing. And Angler was one of the sponsors of the Penn State team. I think they joined in my junior year at Penn State. And I always found the product to be something that I could use in pre-fishing, and it actually helped me learn more about a body of water. Um, like a Chautauqua, why are the fish doing this on these certain types of days where it might be windy and overcast? They're on the fronts of the docks, where if it's super sunny, they're way back the walkways in shallower water. And just helps you kind of put together those patterns. So going into that and using that knowledge that I had, Angler invited a couple of guys from the Penn State team down to the Bassmaster Classic. After working that event, busting butt, if you will, Landon and Nick decided that they were going to give me a job offer. And I did not go to school with any idea of marketing, but I've taken a lot of information that I've learned since joining this company, and I've been putting that to work. I'm now the marketing coordinator. I run a lot of content generation. As you know, we do a ton of articles, all the social media posts, and then some customer service stuff here and there. But yeah, it's been an absolute blast just being in this industry and meeting all of these people that I always looked up to, and being able to call them on the phone and just ask them how their week's going. Things that when I was 16, 17 years old, I only dreamed of. Talking to some big names. As I said, having Dave Lefebvre in my boat was one of the coolest things that's ever happened to me. And actually, one of the thoughts that I had when he was running my trolling motor was, dang, when I was 17, I would be crying right now because Dave Lefebvre was running my boat. It was mind boggling to me just how being in the industry just, helps grow that dream that I have. And it's just been such an awesome experience to be working with Angler and making some big moves.
Yeah, I remember going back to that Bassmaster Classic trip. You were quite the salesman. You were running around chasing people down, giving pitches, and I remember talking with Nick and Landon about you and being like, "Yeah, this kid can definitely sell product." And now anybody that follows our Facebook page or our Instagram or Twitter or anything, all those great bass fishing memes or catfish memes or whatever content you see there, all of our articles that we're working on, they're all going through Derek. Derek's putting these together, throwing them up on there, creating these pages that are helping all these fishermen. So you're doing a killer job for the fishing community that's following Angler right now.
Yeah, no, it's a blast. Our main goal, the reason that I was able to hop on board so quickly with Angler is because I share the same goal that they do, is to help other people catch more fish. Which kind of, in a roundabout way, takes me back to being the team captain of the Penn State team, is just trying to educate all these new anglers that were kind of similar to you, where they got to college and they knew how to fish, but they've never done it competitively. And I mean, as you can probably have a testament for, is fishing versus fishing competitively is two incredibly different worlds. And my goal, as throughout my time at Penn State, was always to just educate people on how to catch more fish, and being able to continue having that goal in my professional career now. It just made perfect sense, and it was a no-brainer for me to join this company and try to just keep educating people on how to catch more fish, because that's, in my opinion, that's what no, this sport's all about.
And something that we're working on right now is well, actually, there's a couple things that we're working on right now. We have the College Bass article that just came out, which is, you want to kind of explain to the listeners what that page is all about?
Yeah, so that page, you and I worked on it with Garrett Enders, Steven Gesso, and then your cameraman for the Angler Tour, Alex Rohrig. The five of us really put in a lot of grind time on that page, and what it turned into is kind of an overview of college fishing. There's the 3 tournament series, the FLW, BASS, and Cabela's Collegiate Cup. We have in that list, in this page, we have a list of every bass fishing college out there, with links to their social media pages. So for high school anglers that are looking at colleges, whether they're going to get a scholarship or if they just want to go there because they'll have the opportunity to try out for the team and fish, you can contact the schools directly from that page. We have a rundown of all the tournament rules, all the schedules that have happened since 2015 to now. And we have even some tips for high school anglers on how to deal with sponsors, maybe some do's and don'ts about fishing competitively in college. It really turned into this massive resource for anyone who's interested in college fishing, whether they're high school, college, or an older angler who's just wondering how this college fishing thing is really taken off.
And then what's like coming out in the future here? Are there any big articles that we're going to be moving in soon that you can give us a little look forward to?
So, for all the angler fans out there that are listening, if you're really looking at learning more about bass fishing, the angler team has a big trick up their sleeve. We're going to be releasing something. It'll basically be a massive resource page for bass fishing. You can learn all sorts of tips, techniques, tricks, all the different baits and lures that are prevalent. This thing's massive, so keep your eyes out for it, because it's gonna blow your mind.
Lots of work that's gone into that bad boy for sure. Let me ask you a question. What's your species list right now? Like, what is your targeted species that you want to go out and catch if you could go on a dream trip?
Like outside of bass?
Whatever, if you could go on any trip you want, what would your dream species be?
Dang, man. So, I'm going to break this into 2 things. I don't know if you're going to allow me to do that, but I'm going to do it anyways. On my bucket list, before I die, I need to catch a double-digit bass, largemouth.
Yep.
It needs to happen.
Yep.
It's something that I will not accept dying until it happens. So, I'd say that that's number 1. Number 2, I want to catch an Amazon peacock, because that chop bait or whatever it is that you just bust across the top of the water, and then this 15-pound fish just munches on it. That looks like an absolute blast to me, and every video I see of it gets my heart racing. So I think that that's probably the species that I really want to catch. I know you got to do that for the Angler Tour, one of the most jealous videos I've, gotten to promote. But
I would say the Amazon peacocks are a little different from the urban peacocks of Miami, though.
yeah, no, definitely those Amazon peacocks seem to be scary aggressive, which I'm super interested in. I would say something like a massive muskie or a massive pike, but I'll be honest, I hate fish that have teeth. I don't think fish should have teeth.
Yeah, toothy fish can be pretty scary. I'm more
I know
scared of hooks, though.
Tyler Barnes is not going to be a fan of that because he loves catching sharks, but I'm not about fish with teeth.
He's gonna make you catch a shark, though, and you're gonna have to hold it up. So you better get over your fear when he takes you out there.
Yeah, we'll get down with Tyler one of these days. He keeps trying to get the angler crew down there, so that'll be definitely a trip that we make.
Have you been on any fishing trips recently?
Um, the most recent trip I went on was I went on a Juniata, just upstream from the Susquehanna River that runs through the middle of Pennsylvania there. One of the tributaries to it is the Juniata River. I went out with one of the sponsors of the Penn State bass fishing team. Sick Custom Baits is the company he owns. His name's JT. And we just went out for a morning, tried to get that smallmouth bite going. They were munching on spinnerbaits and A-rigs. It was a good time. The other trip I took was one of the high school teams that we sponsor at Angler here is the Susquehanna Valley high school team. Two of their boys, Dylan and Zach, had a tournament on Mosquito Lake in Ohio, a little high school tournament. So I decided to be the boater for that, and that was actually a really, really cool learning experience. I wasn't able to really fish, but it was really cool helping them break down the body of water during the tournament day and trying to find areas that we thought could produce some fish. So those are my two most recent trips I've taken.
Very cool. So we're coming up on time here, but let me get one more question for you. If you could give a tip to a high school angler looking to come into college fishing, what would your number one tip be?
That's a heavy question. My number one tip for a high school angler would be, if you truly have a passion for fishing and you see this as something you want to pursue in your life, devote your time to it. And I know that's a really broad statement, but something that I kind of came to realize towards the end of my high school career and the beginning of my college career was, if I devote my life to my passion, nothing bad can come of it. So if instead of maybe spending more time on Fortnite or watching Netflix, watch a million YouTube videos on how to catch bass, read as many articles as you can, and just soak up as much knowledge as possible. And then through that research, put it into action. If you don't know how to Carolina rig, go out and try it. If you don't know how to throw an Alabama rig, go out and try it. And just constantly be trying to improve your fishing skills. Good things will always come of that.
Beautifully said. Thank you for being on the podcast, Derek. It was a pleasure.
Hey, no problem, Jake. Thanks for having me. It was a blast.
Thank you guys again for listening. Make sure to give us positive reviews and ratings on Spotify, iTunes, and Google Play. And as always, catch you next week. Fishing Intelligence, a fishing improvement podcast for the modern angler.